Good morning and welcome. This is going to be the next show. So what's next? And we're going to start with an AIO show. And essentially, here we go, buddy. And we're talking about AI today, shockingly. So since you're the last one on, I believe we might have someone else as well. Larry, I think, is on somewhere, but I think he's driving. And I was going to ask this question anyway, so why don't I start with you? AI is certainly redefining how the world works in 2024 and how we interact with others. How do you feel it will change the nature of work in the car business in 2024?
As a person who likes to consider myself an early adopter, this is one of those things that I went out, tried a couple of things, and then pulled way back hard on the reins. Because what I'm finding is that the promise of what AI can do and its actual reality are two different things. And what I mean by that is we forget that AI still needs, it's like a toddler, right? It still needs to be told what to do. And unfortunately, us in the car business, we tend to be reactive, not necessarily the most proactive bunch. And because of that, our expectations on what it can do and what it can actually do are not exactly there. So I think it's important that we understand and communicate with one another to educate first so that we're prepared as we jump into this world of AI. But I will tell you, there are some really cool little things that I've adopted into my day-to-day that has made things more efficient for me, has made things easier for me to get to the finish line on. I may even be able to simmer down on some of my notebooks by the end of the year because, AI takes better notes than I ever could.
And that's a little bit of a clip from the AIO show. You can definitely check it out. It's from a few months ago before we had all this crazy AI, I guess, crazy stuff going on. So let's go ahead and get started. So here we go. And good morning and welcome.
I want to tell more about the general manager of Franklin's Kia and Landmark. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Larry Feldman, Career Changers USA. Larry and I have been working together for about the last 12 years now. And anything I've ever needed as far as recruiting, training, Larry's been right there. Larry's got me salespeople, he's got me managers, he's got me technicians even through the toughest times in the industry. And he is just the kind of guy who's going to tell you exactly what's on his mind. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. But Larry also has the expertise to back it up. When he was in the dealership world, he was a top performer. And that's really important to my staff, especially as it pertains to training. A lot of people can come in and teach out the textbook, but Larry has a real world experience dealing with customers, dealing with situations in dealerships that we go through on a daily basis and try to train on. But Larry's been through it, so he can really empathize with the people and tell you what's worked for him and maybe what way not to go. Larry is just always at a 10. I mean, his energy level is always up there. And I think people, they just love that and they feed off of it. He's not faking it. He is genuinely excited to come in and help you. He's excited to come and help grow your business. And he's one of those people who just really enjoys seeing dealers succeed and have a lot of fun at the same time.
Life is about connection. Having a support system to lean on. And roads to endless possibility. At every turn, guiding the way, we are building the connections that move you.
So what would your dealership feel like if your entire sales staff was literally on fire, your sales and service staff? They were nonstop all over social media, completely dominating your marketplace. They could do it in 30 days or less and then continue their education to do it for an entire 6 months or a year. You literally would completely take over the entire marketplace and no one would be able to compete with you. And that's what we can do for you. So when you're walking around your community, whether you're at local restaurants or you're going to the gym, you don't want to be bothered? Fine, you won't be bothered. But a lot of people will walk up to you and say, oh my God, I love your social media. Your staff is amazing. We love what you're doing in the community. We want to come buy a car from you. We want to get an oil change at your dealership. Your community is absolutely going to love you. And it doesn't matter what platform you're on. You could be on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. You will literally be all over the place. And not only will you have ads running, but your own staff is going to be promoting your brand and promoting themselves within the dealership and within the business. So it's like running an ad times 100-fold because your entire staff is participating in the process. I've traveled all over North America. I've trained Toyota. I've trained Nissan. I've been to driving sales. I've been to Women in Auto. I get hired as a speaker for conferences at universities all over the country. And I can help change the trajectory of your dealership right now.
Good morning and welcome. So I'm trying to think who was on first. I think it was Troy. The show today is the What's Next show. And if you missed it earlier, I did play a clip from the AIO show. Believe it or not, it was a while ago now. And we should probably do an update since AI is moving blisteringly fast. If you haven't checked out the new Harvard Business Review magazine on AI, it's worth a read. It's available on newsstands and airports, but also, I'm sure, directly. But let's start with Mr. Troy Glenn, who just got finished the Western Dealer Conference in the beautiful Banff Resort. I know Troy had some thoughts on sort of the pulse of dealers, but maybe you can give us a sense of what you do, Troy, and what that was. But also, he works for CDK Global, just so you know, and they are a sponsor for the show. And thanks for that, Troy. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Ian. Well, first of all, welcome. It's been several months since I've been last on the show. In fact, I think the last show I did was the AIAIO show. But it's been a minute, and I just want to say thanks for welcoming me back. This is really great. I'm Troy with CDK for just over 10 and a half years. I'm a director of sales for Western Canada, and exactly what Ian said, I'm actually in a hotel room now on my way home from the Western Dealer Summit. And just to put a little pin on what you brought up earlier, is that the mood amongst dealers was probably the most positive that I've encountered in the 6 or 7 years that I've been going to this show. There's a lot of optimism. I'm not sure what we'll all attribute it to, but I'll just take it and be happy with it. So it's great to see, and I'm hopeful that carries on into 25.
Rock and roll. And what do you think the automotive world will look like in 2025? I mean, obviously, we're going to be doing our month-end prediction show, and actually, our most popular show last year was the prediction show for 1984 and 2024. So if you haven't watched it, check it out. I'm curious how accurate we were, and I'm sure we'll review it next month. But what's your prediction for 2025? Like, what do you think?
I think we're talking about AI, and we're sort of staying on topic. I think what we're going to see are more and more tools and systems designed to perhaps automate some tasks that don't require really specialized skill sets or are very difficult to keep staffed with good people. And I'm glad Larry's on the call, because what this would do, in my opinion, would be allowing managers and people like Larry to focus on the skill required jobs, whether it's service advisor sales, car sales, or retail, F&I sales, things like that. They can focus on skilling those people up instead of spending the time working with, receptionists answering the phones or BEC, things of that nature. So I think there's going to be a shift in focus, and non-skilled jobs will start to get more automated, which will also enable people like us who want to buy a car to be able to do so on our time, whether it's 10 o'clock on a Sunday night while watching TV, or, anytime, we're sitting on a golf course and just waiting for our turn, you can flip through and start that process. And I'm excited for that.
Rock and roll. So, Larry, if you unmute, maybe you could tell us more about you. And also, Troy made some thoughts on staffing. I know that's something that you don't do very well, right? Maybe you can give us your thought. Maybe you can give us your thoughts on 2025 and staffing and how AI might help with staffing.
Well, I agree with Troy, and the only thing I would do a little bit of a counterpoint is, I think it's going to be more important than ever to emphasize being human, because while the AI stuff is such a strong and important tool, it can't be a replacement for human beings. It's got to be something human beings use that makes some kind of sense. And I mean, even the most simplistic form of automation, like I don't know anybody that's happy when you're in a hurry and you try to call something and you get 19 different prompts, and then eventually they hang up on you anyway. So as long as we emphasize the fact that we're still humans and we're still dealing with humans, and then we use the tools we need. I mean, listen, how great of a tool is a PC? I mean, I'm a degenerate reader and music lover, and man, it's so easy to so easy to find these things and do these things now. So it's a great example of using the tool.
Yeah.
But once again, like everything else, junk in, junk out. So
yeah,
I'm kind of excited. I think 2025 is going to be an absolutely terrific year. I think that one of the most important things with anything with the economy is optimism, and I think there's a lot more optimism going into 2025 than there's been the last few years.
agree with that. So we have a new person on the AutoHub show this week. We have Andres, I believe. I have a buddy whose name is Andre. So that's probably why I got messed up. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you do and your opinion on what the automotive world or what the world in general will look like in 2025, in your opinion, as we deal with what's next and change.
Well, I can definitely relate to the point you guys just made about technology sometimes getting in the way more than anything. Like you give a great example with the automated phone system. And my company offers the 24/7 live chat service. So when people see live chat right now, they get disappointed because they know it's just going to be a bunch of BS choices and not even like their main question isn't even going to be there.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to autos, I actually had test driven a 2024 Tesla Model 3.
Okay.
And I was more disappointed than ever. I've never been more disappointed. I think the only car I've driven that was more disappointing was, let's see, it was a what's the upgraded version of Toyota?
Lexus. That's the fancy Toyota. Lexus.
So it was not. What's the upgraded version of Honda?
Acura. That's the.
There you go.
That's the Honda logo squished. It's an A instead of an H.
My God, I'm telling you, I went inside this car and I wanted to. I mean, it was that and the B200 Mercedes were the two absolutely most disappointing cars I've ever driven in my life. But this is number 3, Tesla 2024. Why? Because it's super misleading. You look at the appearance, and I almost bought it like off the shelf, just off the look.
Right.
Because I've driven a Model S from previous years, which had creep mode, which simulated a normal person's drive. So when you let go of the pedal, you keep rolling. Whereas now you let go of the pedal and you're braking. And that's not very functional in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to have your foot glued on the gas for 6 hours while you're driving, maybe long distance.
Yeah.
Maybe you just didn't wake up well in the morning. You're an older person. Like as you get older, you want, convenience. So this car, if you're looking for convenience, and if you're an older person, let's call it 35, 40 plus.
Okay.
You've been driving a regular car your whole life.
Yeah.
You're not going to like this car. I know other people that are also in that age category, and they've gotten inside the newest of new Teslas, and they hate it. So I much prefer the older Tesla models. Now, I'll explain to you precisely the difference between the new Tesla Model 3 2024 and the previous X. Okay, so I was thinking, at the very least, I'd be able to, configure my seating very quickly. Like we're 2024, this should be like the best user experience, just to like configure your mirrors and stuff like that. Horrible. It took me literally 20 minutes assisted with the guy sitting next to me from the dealership to get my mirrors set where they needed to be. Horrible waste of time. And if ever you have to change cars and someone else has to get in, God help you, because you're going to have to reset that thing up. And if that car was a cell phone, I would have picked it up and smashed it against my wall. Next point, very, very disappointing, again, was just the drive itself. So who would have thought that when you let go of the gas pedal, you're pulling back? We all knew that that happened in previous models, but you always had the option to just go back to a normal drive, like a Lucid or like a lot of other cars that don't have that feature. So that drove me nuts. Whenever you let go of the pedal, you're decelerating. Now, the other thing that was really not favorable about the Tesla Model 3, and I love Elon, by the way. I'm not going to on his Elon Musk. He's like,
just the products are bad, but go ahead.
I love Tesla. But,
just not the products. I get it. Yeah.
No stick shift. What do you mean no stick shift? Like, you can't change your gears with your hand. Okay, well, how do you do it then? Well, okay, so you have to take your eyes off the road, look at a screen, then fumble and make sure you have the touch perfectly. Right? You ever see your grandmother playing with your cell phone, touching it, and then being like, why didn't it work? That's what happens while you're driving. Okay, so put a bullet in my head now. Yeah, they should be the safest cars in the universe, crash tested, the best. Elon, he's all big on security. Yeah, that's the number one priority. How about keeping your eyes on the road? Is that a priority? Apparently it's not in the latest Teslas. Okay, so big X-nay on that. Now, let me see. The last point I really didn't like about this car was the same thing twice. Okay, so now if you want to switch gears, not switch gears, you wanna put your blinkers on. Now, normally people are used to the left stick, right stick, right? So you can just where they are, but it's very intuitive, right? It's always there. You got your right, your left. You can do that in your sleep, right? While you're driving. Now to change lanes, okay, whenever you have to change lanes, imagine you're driving, you're turning, your wheel is wherever it is, you have to look down at your steering wheel, and there is a left button and a right button that you have to find and push while you're driving. I could juggle 3 tennis balls and eat my breakfast at the same time, easier than that. And this is while you're driving. So I was just royally pissed off with this abomination. And quite honestly, I stopped buying Tesla stock at that point. I was like, there's no way people are going to buy this. But somehow miracles are happening. And I still own it. I didn't sell any, but let's just say I love Elon. I love his company. I believe in his robots. Getting back to the robots, very important point, because I do see a lot of applications for this robot. I watched the We Robot event. I'm very big on technology in general. And so I follow all things technology, including cars, including auto. And one of the things that I think he's bringing to the table with these robots is going to be functional robots that are in your house. And I think people think it's crazy, but you have a toaster, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
having a toaster on steroids that makes you coffee and breakfast and can fold your laundry, which is every woman's most hated task.
What, laundry?
Okay. Making sock calls for their husbands. Absolutely the most hated task. These robots can do this now, and they have the actual dexterity in their fingers similar to human capability. They call them inflections, and so the robot hand can now move very similarly to the human hand. And what's kind of cool is they can go beyond that. So instead of going like this, their thumb is going to be able to go all the way down here. And they're going to be able to do all sorts of stuff.
But to bring it back to your car analogy, and not to beat up Musk, because I've been studying the Tesla model since, believe it or not, I went to a showroom in Seattle way back now when they had the Roadster. I remember going there. I made an appointment with the salesman. The salesman didn't show up. They basically threw me the keys, say, drive it, let me know what you think. So part of, I think, what the challenge is with people that get into the car business, Tesla being one of them, is it's still a car purchase, so it still needs to make sense to the vast majority of people. And B, no matter how fancy or expensive a car is, whether it be a Tesla or a Lucid or a Mercedes, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what's next, in my opinion, and this is something we've been talking about now for 5 years on the show, it's about personalizing the experience to the customer, but not only that, keep it simple, stupid. And I think part of the reason why Tesla is going to have challenges moving forward is not only do they have a lot of competition from China and elsewhere, but also they've forgotten that it still needs to make sense. And I think that's really what you look at when you look at software, when you look at automotive software, when you look at automotive vehicles that are software generated, when you look at Musk and his software. Really, it's about superior customer experiences. And I just don't think gluing an iPad to the middle of your dash makes it a great experience. Like, I think there's pros and cons. But also we have DJ joining us. DJ, did you want to introduce yourself and give us some thoughts on what's next? I don't know if you're muted or not. DJ, are you there? I don't know if he's there. Anyway, Troy, what do you think on customer experience as we look at enhanced productivity, when we look at embracing technology, what's next? We look at AI. I mean, I think it really, the gold standard is a customized customer experience for that customer. But what do you think?
Well, when I look at it, listen to Larry's response, where we have to remember that there's human beings on the other side of the equation. That's never been more true. And you can have an AI that is more and more human-like every day. In fact, like we have a fully automated chat, two-way chat function that can speak 50 languages in real time, and it's conversational.
Yeah.
But it has to be something that everyone can use. And going back to the Tesla analogy, well, if you're just looking at things from a workflowing a process and trying to minimize the friction points, sometimes you take out some of those necessary friction points that make it an enjoyable experience. And if you're not beta testing these things on people in their 70s, people in their 20s, people in their 50s, frequent drivers, infrequent drivers, all that stuff, and you start to miss part of your market. And you could have, the most specialized, you could take a knife and make the most specialized knife in the world, but, at some point you're going to make that thing the sharpest thing in the world, and the only people that can use it are surgeons, because you have to have a massive skill set. So, the human piece, the best product or service that's going to benefit or be a result of this AI experience is the one that works for the most number of people in the world at the everyday age demographic in multiple languages and different things too. I mean, you've got people that speak very different English, whether they're in England or the Eastern US or the Western US or Canada, and you need to be able to understand colloquialisms, things like that, to make it good. So, I think from a customer experience, it's going to get better over time because the algorithms are getting better over time. And going back to that clip from the AIO show, is that it's really all about the amount of data you have. So as the data pool and speech patterns get more and more uploaded into the big brain algorithm formula for whatever that AI company uses.
It's 9:55 to 3:15. You want to do up there, or you want to do down here? I'll do it.
Go ahead.
So when I look at that experience, it's everything. People will adopt it more if it's better. That's just the facts of life, right?
I know, Larry, that you're the you have to unmute, but I know, Larry, you're the most technically AI savvy programmer on the panel today. And I know customer experience is not important to you, that really it's about robots making pizza. But give me your thoughts.
I can't even work my garage door. Okay, so it's unbelievable. But you have to think, you have to look at it on both sides. On one hand, as much as I said you have to pull back, how are you ever going to make AI or a robot as lazy and as stupid as a salesperson? And if you don't believe me, go to a dealership and try to buy a car, and you wonder, what more could we do wrong? There has to be a global thought. When you start thinking globally in a good way, I'm not talking about where they spread ideas across continents and everything makes no sense. A great example of looking at things globally and ruffling some feathers is Henry Ford. Henry Ford raised the salaries of his people. And every business person said, what are you, crazy? You're going to screw it up for all the rest of us. And he said, nope, I want to make sure that people that are working for me can afford a car that they're building. So if you think in terms of how can everybody advance and how can everything make sense, you can't lose. So if things, hey, there's my man, DJ. How are you, my buddy? If things are logical, if things can be quicker, okay, again, if you go to a computer and you're trying to find some information, you can hit 2 buttons and disseminate the information in 30 seconds. That's fabulous. But when we get away from being human, see, one of the, you got Andreas, you got Troy, but DJ is pretty sharp too, and Ian's no slouch. I'm the technical non-compliant guy. But you know what AI can't do, and what robots can't do? They can't smile. They can't put their arm around me and go, "Man, I know how you feel. That happened to me." So if we,
they're getting close.
I know they are.
They have robots, full human-sized heads that can talk and move their mouth and turn their head and look you straight in the eye.
Hey, Troy and DJ, how about if we take Andreas out, get him drunk, and make him watch 2001 and see what happens when
I'm down.
Perfect.
DJ, I know you had a little trouble getting on. Maybe you can tell us more about what you do, and more importantly, what do you think on productivity? The future of automotive, but more importantly, what's next in automotive. I know you deal with a lot of technology, probably a little more technical than Larry, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm DJ Sardana. I work for C4 Analytics. I'm in the digital marketing space now for a little over 6 years, but 23 years in automotive total. Spent some time in the dealership for almost 10 years when I worked for Asbury. So plenty of time and different experiences when we didn't have the AI. It was the opposite of the AI. It was before templates. It was when we worked internet leads where we typed up the entire email. We couldn't even paste in photos. It was very, very different than when I started selling cars. But I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg with AI. A lot of companies are dropping AI like it's a big, huge thing. I think we're still at the stage where it's kind of a buzzword. I think it's not. It may be more developed than what we're seeing. We're only seeing just a sliver of it. ChatGPT was a huge, big thing that I think it took me a little bit of time before I logged in. But then when I logged in, I was like, "Holy crap!" I mean, it can really it's all dependent on what you feed it. If you got to be very specific with your prompts, with what you're looking for. But you can add themes. I had the thing create me a rap song, and I inputted the names of 20 people on our sales team and create a rap song about people at my company, and it was really wild what it came up with. I mean, it's pretty slick, but I still think we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now. I think AI's got a long ways to go, at least for us, the customer facing side, for us to see it. I think in the background it's a lot further, but obviously, you know how things go. We only get bits and pieces early on. They'll start dripping more and more out. For automotive, for the future, I think we just keep doing what we're doing for now. It's going to keep showing itself more and more as we go. It's going to become more helpful in what we do. But as Larry said, people want to buy from people. People don't want to buy from a robot. I don't think we're there yet. The ability to show yourself and be personable. Maybe robots will get there at some point, but it's still not going to be the same. A piece of metal talking to you and saying that it understands what you're feeling versus a person. The ability for us to go in person to see dealers, get in our car and go and meet with the dealer. I love doing that. Half of the business I closed this year was face-to-face with a dealer. And a robot's not going to do that. They're not going to hop in a car and come sit in front of you across the desk from you at the dealership and give you that engagement and that personable conversation and that handshake and all that. That part's not going to replace us.
I always use the example of Honda because they have these robots, still do, I think, and they've been working on them forever, as has Toyota and as is DARPA. And I think there's also some really creepy, weird robot faces that I think are from China and Japan that are kind of creepy in a sort of iRobot way. And I'm not saying robots may not eventually be part of the discussion, but, I think instead of looking for technology to replace people and enhance people, even though that's great, I think if we focus on just increasing our skill level every single day, and then maybe having AI and technology help us, that's a great move in the right direction. And I know
I think having tech as a supportive piece, I think is better as opposed to making tech be the main focus. Correct.
Yeah, if you look at my interview from Core AI, and actually on last week's show, we talked a little bit about the stages of AI with a luminary in that area and out of the US. You can definitely check out the episode. I did an hour-long interview with him as well. But last week's show, we talked a little bit about the stages of AI. It was kind of interesting. But, at the end of the day, the first stage is an assistant. So the first stage is something that helps you do your job better, hopefully. And I think there's still a long way to go there. But we all know change is scary. And we know that car dealers resist it at every turn, and I'm sure everyone can speak to that. What's your advice? Because we all know that if you're not changing, you're dead. And if you're dead, you're just changing in a different way. What's your advice on car dealers who say, hey, man, there's just too much going on? Too much technology, too much change, too much global stuff. I mean, what's your advice to that dealer who just wants to bury their head in the sand? And why don't we start with DJ since you got in a little late? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that take it in strides, use it in bits and pieces to where you see it's effective in your everyday. There's no reason to drink from the water hose if you don't have to. There's no reason for you to take on too much too quickly because there's a lot out there. It can become overwhelming really fast. So find where you have maybe some areas of your process where things are stalling, where you think you can become more efficient and utilize AI in a way to help you increase those efficiencies in your day to day. Just again, I mean, the easiest piece is to take it one bite at a time. Don't take it all in. Again, we're early in it, but there's a lot out there in terms of AI, and you can really go down a rabbit hole and get lost if you take on too much too quickly. So yeah, I mean, in our business, still work your day to day, but find out where the holes are in your process. Find out how you can fill those holes by utilizing AI in a way that it can help you.
I'm negative. I got so much on my mind.
So much on your mind, Larry. Crazy. So we had an interview with April at the beginning of the show, and she was talking a little bit about AI and how she bought a lot of AI at NADA this year, the beginning of the year. She was like, "Yeah, we're buying everything," and then she got rid of a lot of it because her team just wasn't ready for it. So I think that's great advice, DJ. I mean, Andres. Sorry, Andres. I think that's how you pronounce it. Andreas. Sorry, my mistake. So obviously you work in the chat side, and I know there's been a lot of move towards going away from robots in some cases and having people do it, and the robots seem to be getting better. What's your thought on a dealer just saying, hey, man, like there's just too much going on. Like there's too much change. My people can't handle it. They can't even like talk to customers because they got so much going on. I mean, what's your thought there?
Well, if we back up a little bit and we talk about actual use cases today of how AI and automation and technology are sort of taking the place of humans. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've placed a McDonald's order without talking to a human. I've bought stuff at Canadian Tire and a grocery store, and I talked to a human. I checked out myself with the help of a robot. So I think for like transactions that are sort of on the smallish side, I mean, Amazon is a perfect example. Like people used to go to the retail store and shop, right? And they're more than comfortable today to just have that same interaction for functional items that aren't, huge buys or emotional decisions, sort of like a consultative sale that's required when selling a car, right? That's a much more emotional decision. It's a much bigger purchase ticket item. And so it requires multiple iterations, probably multiple visits to the dealership, a lot of consideration, follow-ups and stuff. I definitely got some follow-ups from Tesla saying, hey, how did you enjoy your test drive after I went and drove their, scrappy 2024? I'm not up on it anymore. That's just my opinion, guys. Some people love it. So that's just my personal opinion, being 40 years old here. So so if I had something to say to the dealerships, it would be factor in, like DJ was saying, I'm also in the digital marketing space, factor in where you can apply AI. AI and technology are just a tool. And I have clients who've also similarly implemented AI, for example, specific appointment booking software on a website that's supposed to sort of make things easier. And then she almost instantly regretted it and said it just created more complications. Her secretaries didn't know how to use it, and so on and so forth. Can these challenges be overcome with time? Maybe, but out the gate, it's definitely not working, and she's considering getting rid of it. So again, I see technology the same way as I see a blank piece of paper. Technology in and of itself is nothing unless you have a proper use case and a proper strategy and a proper implementation and support post implementation strategy. And you have to sort of try in advance to pinpoint, okay, we're not just going to rush into implementing any kind of technology for the sake of technology. like what's going to actually impact our bottom line at the end of the day? Is this technology too expensive for what it's worth? For example, I can employ a full team in Pakistan affordably that offers much, much, much better service for the majority of businesses that would require sort of a live response 24 hours a day. And I also have it available in the main languages: English, French, Spanish, and Arabic. All the biggest ones, we don't have Mandarin yet, but I mean, our customers love this tool, and it's an instant conversion optimizer. So whatever they were making before, they're getting an instant 10-15% upgrade on their return.
Yeah, but
So,
to go back to Tesla, and to say, listen, okay, maybe I have a 24/7 live attendant. Maybe I have it started with AI, and maybe I have a near shore or a far shore team to help. At the end of the day, and I hate to say this in auto because there's probably about 10% of people who don't care about what the car is, they just want to buy it. The vast majority of people making a $30,000 to $150,000 decision or more are gonna want to check it out. And you yourself said the same thing. So even if I set that up properly, I still need to deliver that experience, which is customized to the customer, being of help, answering questions. But even in 2024, and I think the same will be true in 2025, people will still want to go into a dealership and check it out, sit in the seat, check out the controls. If they want a manual, use a manual, whatever. Yeah. But I think that the problem is, and you made the point as the DJ, it's about what are the biggest pain points that you're going to handle this year, or what are the biggest pain points you're going to handle next year, and what's the best way to handle them. I don't think it's about change. It's about what should you change. And maybe Troy can.
I think when you look at to go back to the original questions, of dealers that are resistant to change or dealing with technology, there's a mindset out there where some dealer gets confronted by sales reps like me. They get confronted by their GSM, by their service manager saying, I need this widget, it will make us X amount of money.
Yep.
And dealers look to solve problems with these silver bullet technology pieces, saying, well, if I get AI this or service lane that or what have you, that everything's going to get better on day one. And the reality is there's a learning curve. And like Andrea said, sometimes people, they try it, they don't get the result they want, they throw it out. Well, technology needs time. You need to create a process around it. You have to embrace it. And leadership needs to put the support and power behind it that during the adoption phase, when it's rough, they're still committed to the task. And invariably what happens is a GSM will say, I need this CRM, or I need this vehicle pricing tool, or I need this to go price used cars or buy used cars. They get the tool and it doesn't do what they need to do, so then they blame the tool. When in the end of the day, these pieces of software, these systems and technologies, by and large, the ones that have been around for a minute, they work really well if you give them a shot and you do the process. And Larry said earlier on, salespeople, by their very nature, I'm one, so I'm going to throw myself under the bus here, we're lazy and stupid. And we look for the path of least resistance. And we think, well, how am I going to make my job better so that I can sit on YouTube and look at videos, not how can I convert more leads? And what happens is when it's not easier, or there's a different, like maybe it's the same amount of work, but it's a different process, but because it's different, it's harder. Well, then you're right back to square one. The technology didn't solve the problem. You blame the technology. And people need to be open to be willing to change the way they do their job every single day. And as much as I want to go back and counterpoint Andreas's point about the turn signals and the gear shift and all that other stuff, sometimes there are changes. And for example, if you went back into the 60s, Fords had a push button transmission, right? Push the button for drive, push the button for low, button for reverse. Well, now we have the little shift knobs that showed up in the Dodges around, the first part of 2020, and now we're seeing touchscreen shifting. The change is coming. It's going to happen. It's got to be good. It's got to be practical. But at some point, we have to let the technology have a little bit of runtime and then trust the outcome on the process. But if the leadership in any organization, not just a car dealership, isn't willing to see past the people complaining and screaming and saying, this thing sucks, I can't make it work, it's too hard, I quit. Well, then all of a sudden you're right back to square one and you're not any further ahead. You didn't solve any problems, but you're out $100,000 of sunk time, cost, and one-time money.
And we're going to give Tim a little bit of a thought here. Welcome, Tim.
Hey everybody, how are y'all?
Good. So we were talking about change and how scary it is for car dealers. We know that they're dealing with a lot of change, and there's lots of tech and AI and customers and this and that and Tesla and whatever. What's your opinion on what dealers should change and how they can be less afraid of change? Because as Troy just said, when you look at the software, it isn't the software's fault that you didn't put in the work. Not to blame salespeople, but it's also a question of, okay, what pain points should I fix? Like, what should I buy or what should I implement? So what is your thought?
Well, I mean, that's two bullets that I'll deliver here. Bullet number one, it is human nature, right? And it's human nature for dealer principals, bank presidents, and hospital presidents to be resistant to change, because all three of those verticals are in captive regulation here in the United States, right? And some of that is emulated north of the border where you are in.
Yeah.
But if the stock market crashes and we go into a depression, the United States government extends at least its left or right breast to those three verticals and says, "Hang on, we'll get you through this." Right.
Right.
It always happens. So the fact that AI and the connectivity of the world, along with a very volatile market, which is this crazy mix of 36 economic indicators that show that the United States is at a higher place than it ever has been, with two that pinch everybody in a strange way with interest rates and inflation. Yeah. This is very uncomfortable for anybody, and that compounds the very natural, I would say, reluctance or hesitation that people in the automotive business have had to embrace moving to the cloud.
Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah.
Or integrating systems, those kinds of things. The second part of this is just what has happened is, as software as a service has over the last 20 years come in and allowed every individual within, we'll stay with retail automotive here, every individual within the rooftop or the group, or the rooftops within the group or the OEM.
Yeah.
Every single individual is looking at a screen all day long, and they have software as a service, which is set up for automation. And if you think about what's on the native floor, and you think about in many ways, Salesforce, from outside the car business, really pushed this by creating a cottage industry of 50,000 companies that can connect via an API. And with that, when somebody likes your Facebook post, you'll get a notification in your CRM, and you should send them an email and you should call them, right? Well, car dealers have bit that whole fish and swallowed it and got it stuck in their throat, because car dealers are looking at intent data. They're trying to say, who's the net new person we can identify today to build and price and then come in and do a test drive. Okay, not wrong. And there's a whole lot of technology that's optimized that whole operation. But the thing that they forgot as they optimized all that is the customer relationship.
Oh, 100%.
So for everybody on the call and anybody who's watching this, is the big data platform business right now that actually you got to do before you do anything with AI in the first place. If you can wrangle all the data that you have that historically can show you that you have, I've got a four rooftop dealer right now that's been in business 20 years, and they've identified 300,000 customers that bought a vehicle from them in the last 6 years, and they haven't talked to any of those people in 3 years. Wow. That's what's broken about the car business, is if you aren't doing, and we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show for 2 years, about how Carl Sewell wrote the book on this, right? Is how do you remember somebody's birthday? How do you got technology that can do that for you now, right? It's just to ping you in the morning and say, hey, the person that bought that $75,000 Suburban from you, it's their birthday. And by the way, in the notes, their kid plays baseball, right? I mean, that's what DMS technology was never built to do. Unfortunately, it was all built for operations. It was all just built for dealer to be on the same page and organized. with their operation. Needed. But when that happened, it totally, as everything became automated and super organized, they just took their eye off the ball with customer relationships. And this is the thing that you will notice in 2025, because I know dealers that are talking this game right now is how do I embrace incrementality, right? You know, what grocery store chains do with their mobile apps, right? Is they make your grocery list, and then they aggregate 1,000 people that have similar grocery lists, and they say, oh, well, you know what their journey's going to be to the store. Let's put these end caps. So the 12 things on their list, they'll put 2 more things in their basket. Dealers are going to start to wake up and say, you know, these people haven't talked to me in forever. What if I could just get 5,000 of them out of the 300,000 to come buy a wiper blade or a cabin air filter from me? And while they're here, I'll train up my techs to talk to them about 50,000 mile checkups. And we'll waive the diagnostic, the OBD2 diagnostic.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I got this call. I got a text message from Podium on the weekend. It's like Sunday morning or something. So I responded to it, and then I got a call immediately. And then the guy had no game plan. It's like, yeah, it's me from Podium. I'm like, okay, well, like, A, why are you calling me? And B, like, what's your pitch? Like, it's great that he initiated and he got the call done and I connected and it's all good. But what's the game plan? And I always use the example of recall because I'm actually getting one done on my car, and we had a show a while ago on recalls. 70% of recalls for most brands are never done. Let me repeat that. 70% of recalls for most brands are never even completed. The highest recall number is Chrysler Stellantis, I think. 70% are done. So if I've had one low-hanging fruit I could do with AI and with a DMS and a CRM or a reach out or a call center or my staff or even a chat bot or even a text campaign, it would be, hey, we haven't talked to you in 3 years. Sorry about that. We noticed these things were overdue on your car. Did you want to come in and have them done for free? And the other thing
but Ian,
yeah.
Tim, this is why you have to combine the AI and the human side, because how stupid is it that until CS5 became an issue, everybody should have thought about calling their customer in 2 or 3 days. Everybody should have sent them a Christmas card. Everybody should have. If the information was put into the CRM, it blinks on the screen. It's just insane that we could have had this discussion 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I mean, if you're going to be in business, why wouldn't you want to be as busy as you can be, as connected with your customers? The worst thing on earth is when a customer walks in and you say, oh, but you're here before I bought a car. Who was your salesperson? I don't remember, but you're nice. You can help.
Yeah.
It's endemic. It's people that are in business that don't want to be in business.
Well, this is you know, what Doug Reeves, who I met through this show almost 2 years ago, you know, the A to Z mission is to bring back that one-to-one thing, you know. And for those of you that I've met before, I did grow up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I would have a Cadillac or a Lexus in my garage, and it was because my dad had a relationship with a guy for 16, 17 years who would just call him and say, I've got a new LS400, I'm gonna swing by your house and take it for a spin, right? The check engine light would come on in the Cadillac. He would call that guy. He wouldn't call one. He wouldn't call in and say 1 for sales, 2 for service. It's all that. It's everything you just said. I mean, and here's the deal: is I'm hopping on a plane to used car week tomorrow, right? And I've got him on this marathon 20-minute TED talk with Andy Friedlander that are going to be on stage, and he's going to have a conversation with me. Is what it is, you know. Fireside chat. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. We're having a fireside chat. And the things I will say in that fireside chat will contrast what a group of 150 people in Palm Beach have been discussing over the last couple of days. Because the people in Palm Beach, I will promise you, have been talking about data analytics. They've been talking about how to, how AI can do X and that. They're not talking about how do you build relationships? How do you widen your margins? How do you reduce your operating expenses? How do you comply, not just with FTC safeguard, which will not go away with the new administration in January. It will not. FTC safeguard rules and 14 different states with data privacy laws, right? What is the silver bullet for all these things that actually is the reason dealers should embrace this? is because it's going to help them do more with less, help them save, build higher margins, have more recency and frequency in terms of transactions with the people they know, and probably the people they don't know, because that side of the business is already optimized.
100%.
Think about it. Everybody knows, anybody whose brain is working knows that the strongest chance you have of closing a customer is repeat referral, and then if you throw in, if they have like the bird dog referral thing. So it's like you and me decide to go fishing, and there's two places we can fish. One has one stubborn catfish who's been around for 20 years and has sneakers, and you can't catch him. The other one is just jumping with fish. Why would you want to fish where the area makes sense?
Yeah.
You know, you said A to Z, my boy Doug Reed. He stopped at the letter F for Feldman. I'm mentally unstable, and yet I've been busy from the minute I walked into a dealership. I'm swamped with what I'm doing now because people know if they call me, I answer the damn phone, and I got a joke, and it's not going to feel like an arduous task to talk to me. This stuff is not complicated. Use the technology that is available to us now, okay? But be a human. Listen, George Washington was dying. Okay, the most important person in the history of America. What they did, they bled him. Yeah, that makes sense. They used to use leeches in the 1400s. The point is, you wouldn't go to a doctor now and say, yeah, how about those leeches or that bleeding thing? I hear it's real, you know, then you put me on the medieval torture rack. The point is, you have to continue to change and grow. I love to quote my hero, Ben Franklin, who said, when you're finished changing, you're finished. Sounds like a quote. A quote from Steve Jobs, but it was back in the 1700s.
Well,
I'm going to put it on a slide.
Well, I was reading this article on the weekend about how they're training robots to do surgical operations by studying surgeons. And I sat there and I went, okay, what did you want, Larry? Did you want the surgeon? Or did you want the robot to do the same thing?
I'm Jewish and I have a lot of lawyers. I'd love to see the robot up on the stand when you film for malpractice. This could really be interesting.
Troy, what do you think? I mean, obviously, data is very much part of what CDK does, but more importantly, and I use CDK when I was in retail as well as other products. You know, if you could empower that salesperson using AI or not to not only do the job, but to do it in a timely manner. I mean, what are you advising dealers who maybe have, I don't know, a couple 100,000 records and haven't called people in 3 years? Just a random statement.
I like what you think.
You know, exactly what you know, your comment about Carl remembering the birthday that Tim said.
Yeah.
That all that technology, Ian, it exists today. It exists.
Yeah.
You can absolutely follow up with all your customers, automate the non-important stuff. Like, for example, generating a heartfelt email with customer name input this field, birthday this field, just wanted to wish you well, signed salesperson. You can automate that. You don't have to take a bunch of time in your day, but when you make that human call, it makes a big difference, obviously. So automate stuff that's doesn't require human touch. Do the rest of the stuff that take the time. I mean, I love it when people say, my guys are just so busy, we need technology for this. Well, that guy who sold 13 cars last month, and if there's 24 working days or 22 working days in a month, and you sold 13 cars, you had time. Right?
Yeah.
If you rolled 100 cars in a month, God bless you, and I hope I get you all the technology you need to make it to 200. But selling 20 cars a month, you've got more time than you know. And if you're in denial if you don't, or even if you don't. So I think that the technology exists today already with the data in everyone's CRM. They've been aggregating over time, but you need skilled people like, you know, DJ who was on the call earlier and how to market that data properly so that you have a good customer experience. You're not overwhelmed with garbage ads that are irrelevant. You know, they bought a Suburban last time. Are you going to send them a convertible next time? I don't know. Probably not. But the guy that sold Tim's dad a Lexus, he probably brought the same LS 400 model, just nicer, bigger, same color he always likes, right? And so you need good marketing with that data. But any salesperson who doesn't have time to cultivate those relationships with all the tech and all the data they have is lame. They've got time.
Yeah, one of the best tips. One of the
commission, you make the time. Realtors are out there humping 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, sponsoring coffee stuff and toy drives for kids and all that stuff. You think a car dealer or a car salesperson, excuse me, who's empowered by their dealer to go out and pound the pavement, couldn't do more. We've been on this show for how long? Like
5 years.
plus years now.
Yep.
And we've been talking about it since then. I mean, get creative, you know. And I know you said next week's going to be a really fun show about car stories. There's a million ways to get better at this. And the data's there, the tools are there, the technology already exists. It just, you got to use it, you got to be willing to do it. And it's like that whole notion of success. When success comes knocking at your door, it's got grease on its face and it's dressed in coveralls. It's all about hard work. The harder you work, the more successful you are. I got real lucky this month. Well, no, you worked your butt off and paid on it.
Yeah, I mean, I always use the example of birthday cards and Christmas cards, but it could be a holiday card, it could be a Hanukkah card. I mean, one of the best tactics is send people a birthday card not on their birthday, and you're amazed the amount of calls you're going to get. But more it is regular activity.
Is don't send them a birthday card because they get a lot of birthday cards. Yeah. Don't say HBD Jimmy on Facebook like everybody else does. Here's what you do: is you take 3% of your marketing budget and you go buy a shit ton of big steakhouse gift certificates and Starbucks gift certificates, or your favorite coffee shop locally, because you're a local dealer. Pour it back into the local economy. Be playing on all sides, right?
Yeah.
And just get people to write 5 handwritten. Then thinking about you. Hope your Outback is still serving you and the family right. Like steak.
Yeah.
I mean, that contrasted a little bit. Super. I'm sorry.
Like vegetarian meals and cat food. Here you go.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's that, right? It's that hyper personal relationship. And to Larry's point, you don't need technology for that. To Troy's point, the data is already there. You're just not using it for that because you're using it for all the other things that you have worked yourself over the last 10 years to think that's the car business. It's just about net new audiences is what it is. It's just about finding people who are ready to buy a car. And it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I always use the example, and it's interesting you bring up Subaru because they've been very successful with, I think it was a campaign around pets because that's kind of their brand message, especially on the West Coast of North America. But, if you understand your customer and you understand their likes and dislikes, I actually did a survey on favorite coffee brands because I saw a sticker someone put up somewhere over the weekend, which was like, coffee sucks, and it was like a Starbucks logo, but they've modified it. So I was curious as to what the favorite coffee of people is in North America. So I have the survey running right now. But I think that best campaign was you buy a car, we donate to the charity of your choice. So that says a lot about the brand, but also their customers. So yeah, tailor it to your customers, but reaching out in interesting ways is powerful. I used to do that every month with postcards. Month in, month out, and I would get consistent business because nobody else was talking to these people. I would even send postcards to people who didn't buy cars from me last time because I was like, wow, give them another shot. Maybe their other experience was bad. But Andres, we haven't heard from you in a while. I mean, obviously chat is great, but what's your opinion? Like, what could have Tesla done better to capture you as a customer? Obviously, the Model S is your car. And obviously, you drove the Model 3. Did they try to put you into a Model S, or did they just go, oh, yeah, thanks for coming in?
Well, it wasn't necessarily the difference between the 3 and the S because the older Model 3s had that function as well. It was just the fact that what they're trying to do now, and the reason why, if you look at their financial reporting, margin so much higher is because they're just essentially taking parts out of the car to the point where now the robotaxi doesn't even have a steering wheel. So, of course, they have the best margins in all the industry at the expense of user experience. I mean, the last time I checked, when you're looking at a screen instead of the road, you get a $500 ticket. And not only that, but
big screen.
I was in the dealership, and I was prepared for this question. I was in the dealership, and I asked them. I said, "Listen, I like the idea of the self-driving. At the end of the day, whether it's a surgeon or a car, I'll go with whatever makes less mistakes. A person or a technology, robot." But I asked them straight. I said, look, I like this self-driving thing. Now, what happens in the case of an accident? Will insurance companies cover you if you're using the full self-driving mode? And guess what the answer was?
We don't know.
It was a no.
Yeah, of course not.
They cover you.
course
So
not.
I said, I will pay $12,000 to not have that feature anywhere near my car. You know, I don't want that. I don't even want a chance that that's going to be on in the case that I get in an accident and somehow they look at the data and say, oh no, it was kind of turned on, and you know, you're screwed.
Yeah, but if they had offered you a car that maybe was a couple years old that had the feature you want, would that have persuaded you to buy it?
Oh, but there was like an older model that had all the features I wanted.
Yeah, they leased a few Tesla Model 3s. I'm sure they got some used ones around.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, I didn't. I'll be honest with you, I didn't like the body style.
Oh, okay. So there are other issues.
So I love the body of the new Model 3. Like I said, I would have bought that off the rack just on looks, but then I tried it and it just drove like a go-kart. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm out.
Understand. So we're out of time, but we're going to have everyone do one thing the dealers should look at as we roll to 2025 to handle what's next. What's the one thing you think they should prioritize to handle what's next year?
I got a radical one, Ian.
A radical? Okay, go ahead.
Radical. How about if they went back to service every morning and went back over the orphan files? I know that's shocking, but
Okay.
it just might work.
You mean the people that didn't buy here? Is that what you're thinking?
People that did buy here.
Yeah.
Look at the turnover we have in the car business, which being a recruiter, I'm very grateful for. There's plenty of people that bought a car in your company and there's no salesperson assigned to them anymore. And how can people not be in service? I mean, how much more of a ready-made customer do you have than somebody that's already a customer, that's already in your shop, and might be faced with a high dollar amount on a high mileage car?
Yep.
And again, it sounds really silly, but when we get back to the basics, things work.
Great. Troy, what do you think?
Well, you know, I think if just to wrap it all up, I want to take a little bit from everybody here, but Gary Vaynerchuk had a couple posts recently. He's gone on to a really interesting angle, and it's all about being kind. And you know, you've got people who've been doing the same job as a parts person for 35 years. You got sales guys who've been selling cars since the 70s. You got customers that go back to the same building forever. Technology's hard. Be patient with your people, treat them real well, but more importantly, be kind. And I think if you're kind to your customers, as you try to be anyway, because you want to extract more money from them, but don't forget the humans that work in the dealership that are struggling with technology every day. Because you got folks that are in their 60s, folks that are in their 20s, and they're all using the same systems different ways. I love what Gary Vee said. He said, "Start with kind. The rest happens."
Understand. Tim, what do you think?
You know, I mean, I think it's always going to be a data story, you know, for me. But simplest thing, you know, when I was a mobile strategist, and several times spoke before Gary Vaynerchuk and sometimes followed him, which was always tough. But you know, as a mobile strategist, I always would tell people, if you had asked audiences who runs social media, raise your hand, and then I'd say who runs direct mail, and raise your hand, and almost all the hands would go down. And I would say, here's your big opportunity: is if you run social media, go find the person who runs direct mail and have a cup of coffee with them. And you guys ask each other the same question: what's working, what's not working? Who are your, you know, who do you see as our top 100 or our top 50? Think of a number, whatever number fits. Who are our most valuable customers? And if you can't answer that, right, let's have coffee next week. And let's go out and research. And it's not just social media and direct mail. Within the dealer, it's fixed ops, it's variable ops. It is the dealer principal in some fashion, and it's sure as hell is going to be whoever is the lieutenant in the F&I office, right? Because all four of them are holding the keys to all the answers to those questions. None of them are answering the questions the same way. None of them are having those conversations. So they have to get together. This is in the wake of what Larry was saying about walking back to service and looking up the orphans. Have that conversation talk about the orphans in the variable side, huh?
Yep.
Let's talk about everybody who did building price and didn't show up, right? Let's get everybody involved with a conversation about what we could do different. You know, I mean, that's That's what the whole promise of data unification is, not customer data platforms for marketing automation, but everything in the dealer being in one place and resolved. We're not there with CDK yet, but we're further away from that with other DMS platforms, and we're right there on the doorstep with other DMSs to have real-time API calls, real-time read and write between all of your systems across the dealer. So nobody has an excuse to not have the answer.
Hey, Tim, you said something brilliant. How about if we just focus more in a time when we're so disconnected on just listening?
That's it.
Yeah, I was going to say customer feedback, very important.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's actually one thing Elon is very good at. So he'll throw out a bunch of stuff. He doesn't care if anything blows up or not, but then he'll fix and improve. He says, what is the word he used? He said to have a feedback loop. Yeah, customer feedback loop.
Yep.
So just getting failing as fast as possible. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but it's
Yep.
good to fail fast. So try something, fail as quickly as you can, and then do better. So I think he's not afraid to fail. Like, he's proved that on any number of occasions, which is a good and a bad thing at the same time, because while you're doing it, you're definitely frustrating a lot of customers. But at the same time, I can't disagree that customer feedback should be made a priority, and anything that's done technologically or not should be customer centric. And the idea of finding channels outside of digital marketing, I'm a digital marketer, I completely agree. And I've sent cookies to clients. The best you can actually do is figure out what that specific customer likes. So I don't know who mentioned it, but he said something about like his son plays baseball or something like that. Like, the more specific and personalized it is, I really do believe the more chance you're going to have to get feedback from the customer after that.
yeah, I mean, you look at how Toyota has dealt with electric cars, and look how the other manufacturers have. Not to beat them up, but Toyota's playing the long game. And you can look at Kaizen as continuous improvement, but more importantly, you got to think strategically. Now, I think Elon's made a lot of good and bad decisions, but at the end of the day, you've also got to think strategically. But personalizing it 100% of the time is the way to go. I've had lots of conversations with people about compensation, where they ask me, how should I do a pay plan, and how should I do this, and how should I do that? And I said, well, did you ask the person you're paying? And they said, oh, that's too much trouble. It's like, well, they're your employee. Like, how do you know how to motivate someone if you don't ask them? And the same is true with your Tesla experience. If that salesman has said, listen, I understand you like the new car, but you don't like these features, but if I gave you a great deal on this used one that had the features you want, would you consider that? That's sales. Sales is not selling something online and delivering it in store. That's not sales. That's order taking. And I think that's where some brands are missing it. And I think at the end of the day, if you turn your salespeople, be they young or old, into better salespeople and better customer servants, you're going to have the result. Anyway, we're out of time. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. And have yourself a great week. If you are available next week, we're going to have the Crazy Car Story Show. It's going to be an open show for people who want to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly about the car business in a funny way. Thanks very much.
Nice job.
Yep.